welcome to New York City Atheists Live on Tape, brought to you by New York City Atheists Incorporated. I'm your host, Dennis Horvitz, the David Letterman of the Hopelessly Damned.
Is that on?
We are taping from one of our annual Sunday brunches, and we are very lucky today. This is very exciting. We're actually playing to a packed house. Our guest today is a good friend of mine and the former president of American Atheists, Ellen Johnson. I guess I kind of first met Ellen in person back in 2002 at the Goblins in 1998 for the Clinton administration, and demanded that atheists get a place at the table. I think she is the former president of American Atheists, and she's now involved in a program called EnlightenTheVote.com, and she's an executive. All right, this will come out eventually. She is the executive director of EnlightenTheVote.com, and the purpose of the organization is to get atheists elected to public office. She met with the Office of the Public Liaison in 1998 for the Clinton administration, and demanded that atheists get a place at the table. I think we've had some success at that up to this point. We still have to go a lot farther. She's also has been a frequent guest on national radio and TV, including Hannity and Collins on Fox Network, The O'Reilly Factor, Larry King Live, the CBS Early Show. She's survived Glenn Beck. She's been a guest on a CBS Sunday Morning. I'm reading off a list to take the entire program to read the whole list. She's an honorary associate of the Rationalist International and honorary board member of Scouting for All, a nationwide group that seeks to end discrimination against atheists and gays within the Boy Scouts of America. Without further ado, my very good friend, Ellen Johnson. Please.
We're here to talk about Madeleine. So let's talk about Madeleine on the anniversary of her death, and then when I'm done here, why don't we just open it up and we'll talk about anything you want, all right? We'll answer questions. They said there's no time limit here, so let's go with it. And we'll show you some videos and photographs along the way. So it's been 15 years now since the deaths of the founder of American Atheists, Madeleine O'Hair, her son John Murray, and Madeleine's adopted granddaughter, Robin Murray O'Hair. John was the president of American Atheists, and Robin was the editor of the American Atheist Press at the time of their murders. And does anybody not know that they were murdered in 1995? Okay, great, I don't have to go into that then. They died in San Antonio, Texas in 1995, and when they did, it was the end of an era. But Texas is also where it all began for American Atheists, and so I'd like to show you a video retrospective of Madeleine O'Hair, which will also explain to many newcomers a little bit about how it all began for American Atheists. Most people probably assume that Madeleine O'Hair's social activism began in 1963 with the win in the Supreme Court case of Murray versus Curlett, but it actually began way before that. She had very deep roots in a union family. Her father owned a glass manufacturing company, and he would only hire union workers. When she began to learn about early union movements in America, she said that she wept when she had learned about what had been done to union organizers, workers, strikers, educators, and union advocates. She received her law degree. She went on to get a law degree in 1952. She spent 3 years in World War II as a commissioned officer in the Women's Army Corps. She principally served with the U.S. Army Signal Corps as a cryptographic security analyst officer. Her 3 years of foreign service were spent in Africa, Italy, and France. Madeleine later began working at the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare as an attorney adjudicating claims with the Social Security Administration. Now, around that time, the only government union was the Postal Workers Union. 3 attempts had been made to unionize the Social Security Administration employees, and all 3 failed. So Madeleine decided to try to organize the lawyers, and she did it. Thanks to Madeleine O'Hair, that union is still in existence today. Her union activities, however, caused her to lose her job. With her love of learning, she decided to get her master's degree in psychiatric social work at Howard University. She was then able to become a supervisor in the juvenile department of the Baltimore Department of Public Welfare. her social conscience extended to organizing a Baltimore protest against strontium-90, a deadly radioactive isotope. There was atmospheric testing of atomic devices taking place in the 1950s. Strontium-90 was even found in milk at that time, resulting from fallout from nuclear testing precipitating onto the grasses that the cows ate. But she did even more. Dennis, would you hit it? I think you're missing a button. No?
I've been accused of that.
No volume. Where's the sound? Need audio.
Abiding intellect, injustices, oppressions, cruelties, discriminations, and coercions in our culture, for the lies and deceits and the duplicities. Please notice that I said intellectual hatred, and that's a concept I'm not sure that you understand. But beneath all of my activity, despite the good jobs I did, was a non-acceptance of me, because first I was an atheist. And the people with whom I was working quite frequently would say, you as an atheist can't be the one that takes the letter to the White House. Second, because I was a woman. You have no idea how women are hated in America by the left until you try a couple of years in action with them.
Okay, end it right there. Okay? Okay? In 1962, Madeline and her teenage son, William J. Murray III, sued the President and Board of School Commissioners of Baltimore City, Maryland, to stop compulsory Bible reading and reverential unison prayer recitation from the homerooms of the nation's public schools. In the Murray versus Curlett case, the Murrays did something unheard of before then. They declared to the court that they were atheists, and they objected to the organized prayers and Bible readings because of their atheism, not because they were of a minority religion and objected to the particular deity being prayed to. They objected because they were atheists. In looking back at that case, Madeline said that prayers were irrational and that even if there never was an establishment clause to the First Amendment, they still would have sued, because no child, she said, should be taught to engage in that kind of insane activity. Dennis?
Prestige. He's the author of many books and articles, and is a leader in the fight for separation of church and state. Would you welcome, please, Madeline Murray O'Hare. I was talking with someone this morning who heard you, I guess on the radio, I don't know if it was a tape show or something, and they said you were receiving your usual vilification and phone calls. And I've often wondered, you've spent a good number of your years of your life in fighting causes that are not too popular and cause great emotional reactions in people when it comes to religion and your famous speech in Baltimore about prayers in school. You led that fight. Does it disturb you when you get such vilification, violent reaction from people? All of a sudden you say, what kind of Christian-like attitude is that?
Well, that always comes to mind, of course, but the most important thing I think is that this is their problem. I'm not involved in those emotional, heated ideas. I'm involved in an intellectual pursuit of specific problems in our society, and that's it. It's an exciting intellectual experience, and it's very exciting to uncover the facts that are never told anywhere. But there's no sense getting angry about that. There's no sense in reacting to anger. I would be down to drain it by then, immediately tomorrow. And it's their problem. People who hate are in great trouble. And I'm sorry for those people who hate so badly. But I don't hate anybody.
Now, when you had a court ruling that was unconstitutional to have prayers in schools, and the Constitution does say there should be absolute separation, and Congress shall make no law of freedom and so forth. And yet there are a great number of bills, I guess, still in Congress, where people are trying to get prayer back in school. Why do they feel it's so important? I mean, prayer always seems to be a rather private, exercise with the mind. Why is it that people are so, if people want to pray, they can pray at home, privately. Why is it that they are so adamant about the prayers?
They can pray in church, they can pray at home, they can pray anywhere that they really want to pray. And what staggers me is the Christians who want to pray in private understand a little bit better. Jesus Christ, in the Sermon on the Mount, specifically said, do not pray in public. Do not even pray in your churches. Public prayer, even in churches, is hypocritical. So all these people know more than Jesus Christ does, which staggers me to begin with. But to answer the question, of course, this is symbolism. And the symbolism is a method of capturing ideas. And since the end of the Second World War, there has been a very definite government effort to turn us into a Christian nation with a civil religion. This was manifest throughout the Eisenhower Nixon regime and currently, recently, with the Nixon regime. And religion was the willing persons to be associated with this whole concept. And in return, religion got money, power, special favors, tax exemption for businesses, just for everything. It's the most horrible, waterworks kind of thing that religion has been in, that I am staggered they have been able to keep it under cover.
There was one word that Madeline couldn't say on the Johnny Carson show. Can anybody think of what that word is? Atheist. Atheist. She couldn't say the word atheist. My times have changed. What can't you say today? After the Supreme Court decided 8-1, am I okay? In favor of the atheist family, it became impossible for Madeline to find employment in mainstream America. I can relate to that. Because of the trial, she was fired from her job as a psychiatric social worker in Baltimore, and with the help of 5 supporters of her Supreme Court case, she formed a corporation known as Other Americans. At that time, there already was an organization known as Protestants and Other Americans, United for the Separation of Church and State, which was the precursor to the organization you know today as Americans United for the Separation of State and Church. We have 2 more clips.
They forget
moralistic and so forth.
They forget that this is supposed to be a voluntary association with people and religion. I feel that everybody who wants to be a Baptist has a right to be a Baptist, go to a Baptist church, contribute to the Baptist establishment, and be ruled by Baptist laws. But the thing that infuriates me is that this religion and all other organized religions aren't content there. They want to reach into the general public and make us accept their rules of conduct, their ideas of morality, their ideas of ethics, and then they ask us to pay for it. In addition, they ask us to pay for it because they have an enormous tax-free base.
You're talking about all organized religions.
All organized religion. Every conflict-victim one is guilty.
Some statistics, for example.
Oh.
In your book, you say that the problem is we're getting statistics from churches generally. Is that they're not required by law really to reveal their income.
But they are required by law. And this has been the thing that floors me. The Bureau of Census has been empowered to ask the churches how many members they have. And there's a rare game of giving a greater number of members than one has, simply because this empowers the church to ask for more tax money if they inflate the figure. But the Bureau of Census has power. And in 1906, 1916, 1926, and 1936, they counted what the churches had, and they were staggered by the enormous sums of money and pieces of property. So in 1946, led by the Baptists again, the churches refused to be involved with this law, and they deliberately avoided it. They have hidden what they have had ever since, and they can put every industry to shame. There is no single industry or group of major industries in the United States that has the wealth or the income year after year that the churches do. The 6 major industries can't hold a drop.
You mentioned 5 top companies: Standard Oil, AT&T, Exxon, IBM,
Sears, Standard Oil. All of their incomes altogether do not equal the income of the churches. In addition to this, I think that the most staggering thing is that in every state of the Union, from 18 to 22% of all land that is owned by the churches, tax-free.
We'll take a break. We'll come back and find out how the average citizen, what the average citizen has to pay to make up for his tax exemption. We'll take a short break. We'll be back.
Anthony, you want to see this? No kidding. November 6, 1967. Look at this guy. Just made his first Holy Communion. Here is Madeline Murray O'Hare on, no kidding, the very first Donahue show in Dayton, Ohio. And believe me, rockets went off. Boy, oh boy, did you light up the switchboard. Matt? Before the National Religious Broadcasters Annual Convention said, among other things, let's show 'em. My president said, let me begin with some good news for modern man. According to Gallup, the Gallup surveys, no society is more religious than the United States of America. 7 in 10 Americans believe in life after death. 8 in 10 that God works miracles. 9 in 10 Americans pray. And more than 90% believe in God, to which I say, thank God. The president concludes by saying, I wish it were 100.
Enormous difficulty with President Bush and with the attorneys on his desk. And this is because he, before his election, made a comment at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, Illinois, that he did not consider an atheist to be either a citizen or a patriot. And we have been trying to make him rescind those words, and we've asked for a meeting with him, we've done everything. Because I think that no president can make a commitment like that or say 100% when he knows that at least 11% are atheists.
You can't get a meeting with him?
No, I can't.
Well, I'll make the call for you.
A few years after the Supreme Court decision, Madeline's son, Bill Murray, began dating a Jewish girl named Susan Abramovitz. The Abramovitz family was Orthodox Jews. Susan's parents didn't like her dating Bill, more so because he wasn't Jewish than because he was an atheist, interestingly. When Susan became pregnant and she wanted to marry, and she and Bill wanted to marry, they were only 17 years of age, so Madeline signed consent forms for them and the two were married. And on February the 24th, 1965, Robin O'Hare was born. The Abramovitz family filed a suit against Madeline stating that she had kidnapped and brainwashed their daughter. For unknown reasons, a court ordered Susan into the custody of her aunt and uncle. When Susan didn't appear at their house, the police went looking for her at Madeline's house. But lacking a search warrant, Madeline and Bill quite rightly wouldn't let the police in. The police, however, charged their way into the house, and when the Murrays resisted, they were severely beaten. The neighbors egged on the police, shouting, "Kill him, hit him harder, get that bitch." Mrs. Murray's aging mother was hospitalized with a brain concussion, and Madeline was also hospitalized. The Murray family was charged with assault and battery of 14 police officers, and they were sent to jail. They were released on bail, and fearing a hearing before a hostile court, they decided to leave the state of Maryland. Madeline stated that if I go before that kangaroo court, I wouldn't stand a chance. The police would bring in 250 witnesses and neighbors who hate me. The Baltimore Sun newspaper at that time editorialized on that city's shameful treatment of the family, stating that the city had, quote, treated Mrs. Murray shabbily, end quote.
Brought him up to believe that the United States was a fascist labor camp run by a bunch of Jewish bankers in New York. Did you ever tell him?
Did you read Buchwald's article this week on Daddy Dearest and how children are going out and writing books in which they say their parents said this or said that, and the printers, publishers are all advocating for more and more. I don't know why my son says this.
Why does your son? Why does he embrace? I can understand there's lots. You're right. A lot of children, a lot of families rebel against their parents. He's a grown man now. Why does he embrace? He's an intelligent man. I got he raised him. Why does he embrace fantasy?
No, please hold on. This is his public image that he presents to you. And you can do with that public image which he presents to you anything that you want to do.
You're saying he's a liar.
I happen to know
he's a liar.
I know the facts underneath it.
Is he lying to us?
Let me go ahead and play his game. And
Well,
if
look,
you
the
actually-
game, look, all right, well, there's one of two things. Either he's a liar, an outright liar, or he has embraced something which you taught him from birth and childhood was an absurd and dangerous fantasy.
let me tell you one thing, and one thing only. This young man didn't even know I was an atheist until he was, what, 13, 14, 15 years old. Because I did not make that distinction in my family ever, nor would I. And those persons who know me, for instance, do you suppose that I tried to convert my mother, or my father, whom I love and admire? I never said a word. When Dad died, I gave him the finest Presbyterian funeral that any man ever had, because that was his belief. So he got what he lived.
But why?
I don't do these things, and those persons who know me
If you gave your father that, and obviously maybe gave him some comfort he was going to have that, why take away from people these fantasies that you want that might give them some comfort? Why run around the country and try to destroy this, get this out, get that?
We don't proselytize. If you're Christian,
No, you're trying to
stay where you were at. You're not good enough to be on my side.
Kids in the school want to pray, leave them be.
No, because our government is predicated upon separation of state and church, and the public schools are instrumentalities of government. They are supported by tax dollars. And
I agree with you on that, but let me ask you what...
Testing. Yeah. Right. The light's kind of going in and out. Life had been anything but easy. Life had been anything but easy for the Murray O'Hair family. The Murray O'Hairs faced government harassment, tapped telephones, yearly tax audits, even on EZ forms, and over a dozen harassment lawsuits. In one such harassment lawsuit, a religious attorney sued Dr. O'Hair for alienation of affection. His affection for Jesus. He said that he should be awarded damages because her speeches had placed doubt in his heart about this Jesus. Dennis.
I don't know how many times on my grandmother's knee. I could not burn an American flag. On the other hand, I understand the free speech issue, and I think the Supreme Court was right.
Was right.
Yes.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America?
Yeah, this is Kirk from Atlanta.
Go ahead, Kirk.
And I'd like to address my question to her and ask her if she believes that there is an eternity or a judgment seat, and if so, what does she plan on saying to God when she leaves?
Okay. Number one, there is no eternity. All you have is the life years that you have on earth here, so please make the best of them. Educate yourself and reach out to the human community, and please help save our earth. And meanwhile, of course, there is no God, so I don't need to worry about facing.
You really are strong in that conviction.
Absolutely, totally convinced, and I think everybody else should be.
But I'm totally convinced in the other direction.
Well, Dennis, maybe you'll get over it.
Alan, when you believe, you're just going to be down in it, you know? I just think after the grace of God, here we are. Hi there, you're on Late Night America?
Hi, I'm Nick from...
Madeline O'Hair, her son John Garth Murray, and adopted granddaughter Robin Murray O'Hair have been the authors and architects of modern American atheism, which has come into prominence in the last 35, 40 years. Yet it's almost impossible to know exactly what the Murray O'Hairs accomplished during all that time if you rely only on what the media reports. Well, here's a brief list of some of the things they accomplished. Madeline O'Hair founded the first American Atheist Library and Archives to collect and preserve atheist history and publications. She founded the American Atheist Radio Series in 1980 as the first and only regularly scheduled atheist broadcasts ever to be made in the United States, and broadcast over 123 stations for a dozen years. I think there's a photo you can coming up next. She also founded the American Atheist Forum in 1980, the first and only regularly scheduled television broadcast ever to be produced and directed by atheists. It was on the air for 16 years and aired on 130 major cities, reaching an estimated 9.3 million homes. She founded the first local level network of atheist chapters. She worked with one of American Atheist.
I was embarrassed by that because I don't
So I generally laugh about it and send back some sort of frivolous reply or laughable reply. I didn't come to Texas. I was brought to Texas. I had fled from Baltimore to Honolulu hoping to find political asylum in Honolulu, which is a fundamentally Buddhist state that is anti-Christian. And I couldn't find it there. The legal procedures were against me. So I fled to the only Western country that I knew that was absolutely dedicated to separation of church and state, and that's Mexico. And when I got into Mexico, while I was there, I was approached one night at gunpoint and herded onto an airplane with my then 11-year-old son, and Richard, whom I later married. We were not married then. And when we got down to Mexico City from this very small villages, we lived in 8 miles out, 8 hours out of Mexico City. Richard was forced out of the car at gunpoint, and I was put into an airplane. And when the airplane landed in San Antonio, Texas, there were Maryland police waiting for me to get off of the airplane and arrest me, all of which is extraordinarily illegal. However, I, by just circumstances which were extremely laughable, managed to elude those Maryland police. They didn't pick me up to take me back to Maryland. So therefore, the governor of Maryland asked for me to be extradited on the charge of my having beaten up 14 police officers.